Status report, she demanded, maintaining the iron composure that had earned her command of this experimental mission. Lieutenant Rylan Maddox's fingers danced across his console. Drive is stabilizing, but we're not where we're supposed to be, Commander. These stars match nothing in our charts. And we have company, added Navigator Kalish Voss, her voice unnaturally calm as she expanded the tactical display. Large vessel, unknown configuration, approaching at sublight speed. Olandis felt her pulse quicken, but kept her expression neutral. Humanity had debated the existence of alien life for centuries. Now 13 crew members aboard a malfunctioning prototype would be the ones to make first contact. Open all frequencies, she ordered. Universal greeting protocol. Before Communications Officer Peller could comply, the ship shuddered violently. We're caught in some kind of tractor beam, Maddox shouted as warning lights flooded the bridge crimson. The alien vessel dwarfed the Defiance by orders of magnitude, a massive construction of gleaming purple-black metal that seemed to absorb rather than reflect the light of the system's distant sun. Its shape reminded Olandis of ancient depictions of manta rays, with sweeping wings flanking a central body studded with what her military instincts immediately recognized as weapons ports. They're pulling us in, Voss reported. Our engines can't break free. Olandis made her decision instantly. All hands to battle stations. Arm the prototype pulse cannons. Commander, Peller interrupted. We're receiving a transmission. The main view screen flickered, revealing a humanoid figure with iridescent purple skin and multiple pairs of black eyes arranged vertically on an elongated face. When it spoke, the ship's translation matrix struggled to convert the complex harmonics into English. Unregistered vessel, the alien said, its voice resonating with contemptuous authority. You have violated Axilian Imperium space. Your primitive craft is hereby conscripted for analysis. Resistance will result in immediate termination. Olandis stood taller. This is Commander Varric Olandis of Earth Vessel Defiance. We arrived in your territory due to a drive malfunction. We come in peace and request assistance. The Axilian's multiple eyes blinked in sequence. Earth? Unknown origin? Irrelevant. Your species will be evaluated for labor compatibility. Exceptional specimens may qualify for gladiatorial entertainment. Horror spread through the bridge crew, but Olandis maintained her composure. We decline your offer. Release our vessel immediately. Amusing, the alien responded. Your vessel's design is intriguing, primitive yet innovative. The Imperium will benefit from studying it before dismantling it. As the tractor beam pulled them inexorably toward the massive hangar bay opening in the alien ship's underbelly, Olandis turned to her crew. The Axilians think we're defenseless, she said quietly. They see our small vessel and assume we're primitive. What they don't know is that Earth doesn't send weaklings to test experimental technology. She turned to Weapons Officer Jackson Caden. Target their tractor beam emitter. Use minimum power. We need information, not a war. Aye, Commander, Caden replied, hands steady as he aimed Earth's classified pulse weapon technology. The Defiance shuddered as brilliant blue energy erupted from its forward array, slicing through the Axilian tractor beam with surgical precision. The connection severed instantly. Alarms blared across both vessels. Full reverse thrust, Olandis commanded. Tactical analysis of their weapons and defenses, and download everything you can from their open networks while they're confused. The Axilian commander reappeared on screen, multiple eyes widened in what humans would recognize as shock. Impossible! No trial vessel should possess such weaponry. Olandis allowed herself a small smile. You should have asked permission before attempting to board, Commander. Earth doesn't send ships into the unknown without teeth. As the Defiance backed away from the massive alien vessel, Chief Engineer Zadora burst onto the bridge. Commander, I've analyzed their transmission frequencies. Their technology is more advanced, but their quantum shielding is vulnerable to our pulse cannons. "This isn't over, primitive creatures," the Axilian commander hissed. "The Imperium spans 1,000 worlds. Your defiance is noted and will be punished." The transmission cut off abruptly as the alien vessel's weapons ports began to glow. Evasive. "Maneuvers," Olandis ordered calmly. "And prepare jump calculations. We need to get this information back to Earth." The Defiance had come seeking the stars. Instead, they had found an empire. High Admiral Zovix Nal stood before the Imperial War Council, 6 arms folded in various gestures of respect and submission, as 19 pairs of cold eyes judged him from the semicircular dais. The chamber's bioluminescent panels pulsed with displeasure. "Explain again," Grand Executor Thrakes commanded, her voice modulated to express maximum disapproval. "How a single unregistered vessel, a test craft, disabled an Imperial harvester and escaped with classified Axilian technical data?" Nal's skin darkened with humiliation. "The vessel employed unknown weapons technology, Grand Executor. Our preliminary analysis suggests directed energy pulses operating on quantum principles. Our scientists believed theoretically impossible for non-Axilian minds to conceptualize." "Yet these humans apparently managed it," interjected War Minister Kellex, her spines vibrating with irritation. "Indeed," Nal admitted. "And before they escaped, they penetrated 17 layers of our data encryption. They now possess schematics of our propulsion systems, weapons arrays, and—" He hesitated. "Continue, Admiral," ordered Thrakes. "The locations of 12 Imperial outposts in the Proxima sector." The chamber erupted in hisses and clicks of outrage. Grand Executor Thrakes silenced them with a flick of her ceremonial staff. "This insult cannot stand," she declared. "The Axilian Imperium has subjugated 4 galaxies through superior force and intelligence. No emerging species defies us, especially not primitives who have barely left their gravity well." War Minister Kellex leaned forward. "We should dispatch the 9th Fleet immediately, find their homeworld, and reduce it to atoms." "Patience," counseled Science Director Vrex. "This Earth possesses technology we don't understand. The prudent approach would be infiltration and assessment before commitment of major forces." Grand Executor Thrakes' primary eyes narrowed. "Both approaches have merit. Admiral Nal, you will lead a battle group to locate this Earth. Stealth observers first, then overwhelming force. Make an example of these humans that will echo through the ages." Nal's posture straightened with vindication. "It will be done, Grand Executor." Meanwhile, aboard the Defiance, Commander Olandis addressed her assembled crew in the ship's compact mess hall. "The jump drive is still malfunctioning," she informed them grimly. "Engineer Zadora believes we can make one more jump, but with current damage, we can't be certain of reaching Earth." "The Axilians will be hunting us," Lieutenant Maddox pointed out, "and we've seen their technological capabilities. One ship against their armada." "Which is why we're not running home with our tails between our legs," Olandis replied, activating a holographic display showing star charts extracted from the Axilian database. "We've learned they've been systematically conquering and enslaving species throughout this region of space. Earth would just be their next target." Navigator Voss studied the display. "These marks, their outposts, military installations?" "Exactly," confirmed Olandis. "The Axilians believe themselves invincible because no one has ever successfully challenged them. But their arrogance creates vulnerabilities." She expanded a section of the map. "This outpost controls communications for an entire sector. If we strike here, we could disrupt their ability to coordinate a response." "You're suggesting we attack them?" Medical Officer Elsara Naomi asked incredulously. "We're a research vessel, with experimental weapons, not a warship." "Which is precisely why we might succeed," Olandis countered. "They underestimated us once. They'll do it again. And while they hunt for Earth with overwhelming force, we'll be striking where they're vulnerable." Engineer Zadora stepped forward, their usually timid demeanor replaced with determination. I've been analyzing the Axilian shield frequencies. Our pulse cannons can be modified to create cascade failures in their defensive systems. And I've identified weaknesses in their network security, added Communications Officer Peller. With the right approach, we could potentially hijack their communication systems, feed them false information. Weapons Officer Caden nodded slowly. A guerrilla campaign, hit and run, psychological warfare. Exactly, Olandis confirmed. We turn their strength against them. Their empire is vast but rigid, hierarchical. Disrupt the hierarchy and the structure crumbles. Medical Officer Naomi still looked uncertain. What about Earth? Shouldn't we warn them? If we can capture an intact Axilian communication array, Olandis replied, we might be able to send a message. But our priority has to be preventing the Axilians from finding Earth in the first place. The crew exchanged looks, fear mixed with determination. I know this isn't what any of you signed up for, Olandis acknowledged. We were supposed to test the drive and return home heroes. Instead, we've stumbled into an interstellar conflict. But think about it. If we don't act, Earth could face annihilation before they even know the threat exists. Science Officer Leora Varan, who had been silent until now, spoke up. The Axilian database indicates they've conquered over 300 species. None have successfully resisted. None of those species were human, Olandis replied with quiet confidence. We've spent our entire history fighting against overwhelming odds. It's what we do best. She looked around at her crew, 13 humans, alone in hostile space, aboard an experimental vessel never designed for combat operations. I'm not ordering this, I'm asking. Who's with me? One by one they stood. Even Medical Officer Naomi eventually rose, though her expression remained troubled. For Earth, Lieutenant Maddox said simply. Commander Olandis nodded. Engineer Zadora, plot a jump to these coordinates. We're going hunting. As the crew dispersed to their stations, Olandis studied the star chart once more. 13 humans against an interstellar empire. The odds were astronomical, but then, humans had always enjoyed beating the odds. The Axilian monitoring station orbiting Proxima Delta hung like a malevolent spider in space. Its sensory arrays stretched across thousands of kilometers, constantly scanning for unauthorized vessels. Inside, Monitor Chief Kelzan supervised a crew of 40 technicians, most of them members of conquered species serving their Axilian masters. Sector sweep complete, reported a gray-skinned Vorelian at her station. No anomalies detected. Kelzan clicked his secondary mandibles in acknowledgement when suddenly the station's lights flickered. Emergency systems activated with blaring alarms. What's happening? He demanded. Unknown energy signature approaching, the tactical officer shouted. Configuration matches. It's the Earth vessel. Impossible, Kelzan hissed. They couldn't have penetrated our detection grid. But on the main view screen, the Defiance materialized seemingly from nowhere, its hull modifications rendering it nearly invisible to Axilian sensors. Before the station could raise shields, brilliant blue pulses lanced out, precisely targeting communication arrays and sensor nodes. They're not attempting to destroy us, Kelzan realized with growing alarm. They're disabling our systems. Inside the Defiance, Commander Olandis watched the operation unfold with intense focus. Status of their defense grid? Neutralized, reported Lieutenant Maddox. Their weapons are offline. Communications? Severed, confirmed Officer Peller. They can't call for help. Olandis nodded. Phase 2, boarding team prepare for deployment. The plan was audacious, bordering on suicidal. Infiltrate the Axilian station, extract critical intelligence about Imperial fleet movements, and upload a virus designed by Peller and Zadora into the Axilian network. If successful, it would corrupt navigational data throughout the sector, sending Axilian ships on wild goose chases away from possible Earth coordinates. The boarding team, Maddox, Kaiden, Science Officer Varan and Engineer Zadora sealed their tactical suits and moved to the airlock. Remember? Olandis cautioned them over comms. Stealth is priority. We're not here to engage in combat unless absolutely necessary. Understood, Commander, Maddox replied. Though I suspect the Axilians might have different ideas. Using maneuvering thrusters, they crossed the void between ships and breached an emergency access port identified in the stolen schematics. Inside, they encountered surprisingly little resistance. The station crew more focused on restoring critical systems than repelling boarders they hadn't detected. They split into two teams. Maddox and Caden headed for the central data core, while Varan and Zadora made for the communications hub. This architecture is fascinating, Zadora whispered as they navigated the station's organic-looking corridors. The Axilians build their technology to mimic biological systems. Focus, engineer, Varan reminded them. Admire alien engineering after we survive this mission. In the command center, Monitor Chief Kelzan was growing increasingly desperate. Deploy security drones to all critical systems, he ordered, and get those emergency transmitters online. A subordinate Axilian approached hesitantly. Sir, we're detecting unusual access patterns in the central network. Someone is extracting classified fleet deployment data. Kelzan's multiple eyes widened in horror. Lock down the system. Purge all data if necessary. But it was already too late. Lieutenant, Maddox had gained access to the central core while Weapons Officer Caden stood guard. I've got it, Maddox murmured into his comm. Fleet movements, patrol routes, identification frequencies, everything we need. Incoming security drones, Caden warned, raising his pulse rifle. At least a dozen. Meanwhile, at the communications hub, Zadora worked feverishly to upload their virus while Varan monitored Axilian security responses. Almost there, Zadora muttered. Their systems are fighting back, but they've never encountered human algorithms before. Hurry, Varan urged. We've been detected. On the Defiance, Commander Olandis watched tension mounting as multiple red dots appeared on the station schematic. Boarding team? Status? She demanded. Data secured, Maddox reported between bursts of weapons fire. But extraction route is compromised. Virus upload at 80%, added Zadora. Need 2 more minutes. Olandis made a split-second decision. Defiance to boarding team, we're initiating diversion protocol. Stand by. She turned to Navigation Officer Voss. Take us around the station, target their sensor arrays again, It looked like we're attempting to destroy the station entirely. That'll bring their focus back to us, Voss noted. Exactly, Olandis confirmed. Give our people the time they need. The Defiance swooped around the Axilian station, weapons blazing, in a spectacular display that drew all attention outward. Security drones retreated from internal pursuits to reinforce external defenses. Upload complete, Zadora announced triumphantly. Virus is spreading through their network. Data extraction finished, Maddox added. Retreating to extraction point. Now. Monitor Chief Kelzan watched in helpless rage as his station's systems began failing in cascading sequences. What have they done? He demanded, as navigation data corrupted before his eyes. Within minutes, the boarding team had returned to the Defiance, and the Earth vessel vanished into FTL before Axilian reinforcements could arrive. In the aftermath, the Axilian High Command received Kelzan's report with stunned disbelief. 1 vessel, Grand Executor Thrakes repeated incredulously. 1 primitive vessel infiltrated an Imperial monitoring station, stole classified data, corrupted our navigation systems across an entire sector, and escaped unscathed. The humans display unprecedented tactical innovation, Science Director Vrex observed. Their technology is less advanced, yet they employ it with remarkable effectiveness. War Minister Kellex slammed multiple fists onto the council table. This humiliation cannot stand. I demand immediate action. And action they shall have, Thrakes decreed. Dispatch the Imperial Dreadnought Indomitable to hunt down this Earth vessel. No more underestimation. No more failure. Little did the Axilian High Command realize that this was precisely what Commander Olandis had anticipated and planned for. The Imperial Dreadnought Indomitable was the pride of the Axilian fleet, 5 kilometers of advanced weaponry, impenetrable. Shields, and overwhelming firepower commanded by Fleet Marshal Ravix Dorn, veteran of 100 conquest campaigns. Its very appearance had caused entire civilizations to surrender without firing a shot. "This Earth vessel has made fools of the Imperium for the last time," Dorn declared to his command staff, stalking across the bridge with predatory grace. "When we find them, I want no prisoners, no survivors. Their atoms will be scattered across the void as warning to all who defy Imperial will." Marshal, his second-in-command, Sub-Commander Levka, approached cautiously. "The humans' last known coordinates suggest they're heading toward the Viridia Nebula." "The nebula?" Dorn's brow ridges furrowed. "That region is uninhabitable. Nothing but cosmic dust and radiation." "Perhaps they're desperate," Levka suggested. "Or perhaps they know something we don't." Dorn's expression darkened. "Set course for the nebula. Maximum battle readiness." Inside the swirling gases of the Viridia Nebula, the Defiance sat in silent running mode, its systems powered down to minimum levels as Commander Olandis and her crew analyzed their stolen intelligence. "The virus is working better than expected," Communications Officer Peller reported with weary satisfaction. "Axilian fleet communications are in chaos, ships responding to phantom distress calls, others chasing sensor ghosts." "And the Indomitable?" Olandis inquired. Lieutenant Maddox pulled up a tactical display. "Taking the bait. They're entering the nebula now." Engineer Zadora looked concerned. "Commander, are you certain this plan is viable? The Indomitable outguns us by orders of magnitude. One direct hit from their primary weapons would vaporize us, which is why we won't be fighting them directly," Olandis replied calmly. "Science Officer Varan, report on the nebula's composition?" Varan activated her own display. "As expected, Commander. High concentrations of methanic gas and metallic particulates. If ignited with sufficient energy, the chain reaction would be substantial." "And the modified pulse cannon? Calibrated to the precise frequency," Weapons Officer Caden confirmed. "One shot should trigger the reaction." Olandis nodded, studying the tactical display as the massive Axilian dreadnought pushed deeper into the nebula, hunting them with single-minded determination. "They're still underestimating us," she observed. "They think we're hiding, not hunting. Navigator Voss, position us at these coordinates. Engineer Zadora, prepare for emergency jump immediately after weapons discharge." The crew moved with practiced efficiency, the weeks of guerrilla warfare having forged them into a seamless unit. Gone was the tentative research crew. In their place stood battle-hardened warriors fighting for their species' survival. "Indomitable is deploying scout drones," Maddox reported. "They're searching the nebula systematically." "Let them search," Olandis replied. "Maintain silent running. Wait for my mark." Hours passed in tense silence as the Axilian dreadnought moved methodically through the nebula, its massive silhouette occasionally visible through the swirling clouds of cosmic dust. Finally, it reached the position Olandis had anticipated. "They're at the convergence point," Varan announced. "Maximum concentration of reactive elements surrounding them." Olandis took a deep breath. "Power up weapons. Single-targeted pulse." "Target locked," Caden confirmed. "Firing solution ready." Fire. A single pulse of blue energy lanced out from the Defiance, seemingly harmless against the massive dreadnought's shields. But it wasn't aimed at the ship. Instead, it struck a particularly dense pocket of nebula gas directly in the Indomitable's path. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a spark, followed by cascading ignition as the nebula itself became a weapon. Aboard the Indomitable, Fleet Marshal Dorn watched in horror as sensors screamed warnings. "Chain reaction," his science officer shouted. "The nebula is igniting." "Impossible," Dorn roared. "Evasive maneuvers, full reverse thrust." But the massive dreadnought couldn't turn quickly enough. The wavefront of explosive energy engulfed the vessel, overloading its shields and searing through its hull plating. "Jump drive online!" Zadora called out as the Defiance shuddered from. "The nebula's mounting detonation." "Jump now!" Olandis commanded. The Defiance vanished into FTL mere seconds before the nebula explosion reached its position, leaving behind an inferno of cosmic proportions. And at its center, the pride of the Axilian fleet burning from within. The Indomitable didn't disintegrate completely. Instead, it emerged from the conflagration crippled and dying, its weapon systems destroyed, life support failing, and nearly half its crew dead or injured. Fleet Marshal Dorn, badly wounded but alive, stared at the damage reports in disbelief. "How?" he whispered. "How could they know? How could they plan this?" The Defiance reappeared at the nebula's edge, watching from a safe distance as their handiwork unfolded. "The Indomitable is still intact," Maddox observed, sounding disappointed. "Good," Olandis replied, surprising her crew. "Hail them." On the shattered bridge of the Axilian dreadnought, a communications officer called out weakly, "Marshal, the Earth vessel is hailing us." "Put them through," Dorn snarled, clutching his wounded side. Commander Olandis's image appeared on the fractured view screen. "Fleet Marshal Dorn, your vessel is crippled, your weapons offline. You have approximately 6 hours before your life support fails completely." "Come to gloat, human?" Dorn spat. "No," Olandis replied calmly. "I've come to deliver a message to your high command. We've uploaded coordinates to your emergency beacon. They'll lead to a habitable moon where your escape pods can safely land. Rescue vessels can retrieve your survivors." Confusion flickered across Dorn's alien features. "You're helping us survive after destroying our ship? This isn't about annihilation, Marshal. It's about sending a message. Tell your leaders, humanity will not be conquered. We will not be enslaved. For every ship you send against us, we will respond tenfold. Your empire has never faced a species like ours." Dorn stared at the human commander, finally understanding the true danger these creatures posed. "What are you?" Olandis's expression remained impassive. "We're human, and we're just getting started." The transmission cut off, leaving the broken dreadnought adrift as the Defiance jumped away once more. Within the Axilian Empire, alarm spread like wildfire. The unthinkable had happened. The mighty Indomitable had fallen to a single Earth vessel, and somewhere in the vastness of space, 13 humans continued their impossible resistance. Grand Executor Thrakes' inner sanctum had never witnessed such chaos. The 11 members of the High Command spoke over one another in a cacophony of clicking mandibles and hissing accusations as footage of the Indomitable's ruined hull played on repeat. "Silence!" Thrakes finally roared, her voice amplified by the chamber's acoustics. "This display is unworthy of Imperial leadership." The room quieted immediately, though the tension remained palpable. "The humans have destroyed or damaged 17 Imperial vessels," War Minister Kellick stated flatly. "They've corrupted our navigation systems across 3 sectors. 6 subjugated worlds are now in open rebellion, citing the human example as inspiration." "One vessel," Science Director Vrex marveled, his scientific curiosity overriding political concerns. "One vessel with 13 individuals aboard. The statistical improbability is astronomical." Fleet Admiral Loxara, who had replaced the disgraced Nal, leaned forward. "The Defiance employs tactics we've never encountered. They don't engage directly. They use our environment against us. They exploit vulnerabilities we didn't know existed." "Then we must adapt," Kellex insisted. "I propose committing the entire Third Fleet to hunting down this Earth vessel once and for all. Surprising everyone, Fleet Marshal Dorn, still recovering from his injuries aboard the Indomitable, spoke up via holographic projection. With respect, Minister, that would be playing directly into their strategy. Explain, Thrakes commanded. Humans want us to commit overwhelming force to hunting them, Dorn said, his voice weak but his reasoning clear. Every ship we divert to their pursuit is one less maintaining our borders, one less suppressing rebellions on subjugated worlds. They're bleeding us by 1,000 cuts. Are you suggesting we ignore this threat? Kellex demanded incredulously. No, Dorn replied. I'm suggesting we recognize it for what it truly is. The Defiance is not merely a vessel, it's a symbol now. The humans are waging psychological warfare as much as physical. Science Director Vrex nodded slowly. The Marshal's assessment aligns with my analysis. These humans understand something fundamental about our empire that we ourselves have forgotten. Our strength lies in perception as much as reality. Grand Executor Thrakes' multiple eyes narrowed. What are you implying, Director? For millennia, we've conquered through overwhelming force and the belief in our invincibility, Vrex explained. The humans have shattered that belief. Not just for our enemies, but for ourselves. An uncomfortable silence fell over the chamber as the implications sank in. There's more, Intelligence Prefect Zylara announced, speaking for the first time. Our deep cover operatives report growing dissent among the Vex Coalition. They believe our inability to neutralize a single Earth vessel indicates weakness. 3 Coalition worlds have begun mobilizing their defense fleets. War Minister Kellex hissed in alarm. The Coalition wouldn't dare challenge us directly. They might if they believe we're vulnerable, Admiral Loxara pointed out. And right now, that's precisely what these humans are demonstrating to the entire sector. Grand Executor Thrakes rose from her throne-like chair, her decision made. This ends now. Commit the Imperial Guard, 100 vessels, find this Defiance and obliterate it, whatever the cost. Even Kellex looked shocked. The Imperial Guard? That would leave the home systems vulnerable. Nothing is more vulnerable than an empire perceived as weak, Thrakes replied coldly. Find these humans, destroy them, make examples of any who assist them. As the High Command dispersed to execute her orders, Science Director Vrex lingered. Grandway. Executor, there is another approach worth considering, he ventured carefully. Perhaps we should attempt communication with Earth directly, offer terms. Thrakes turned on him, rage evident in her posture. Negotiate? With primitives who have humiliated us repeatedly? The Axilian Imperium does not negotiate, it conquers. Even if conquest leads to our downfall? Vrex asked quietly. The Grand Executor's voice turned dangerous. Choose your next words with extreme care, Director. Vrex bowed submissively. I speak only out of concern for the Empire's preservation. These humans, they're unlike any species we've encountered. Perhaps understanding them better would reveal new strategies. The only understanding I require is the knowledge that soon their atoms will be scattered across the void, Thrakes declared. You are dismissed, Director. As Vrex departed, Thrakes returned to studying the footage of the devastated Indomitable. Something about these humans disturbed her on a level she couldn't articulate, a species that should have been easily conquered instead, proving to be their most dangerous adversary in 10,000 years. Aboard the Defiance, the mood was somber, despite their string of victories. Medical Officer Naomi moved from station to station, administering stimulants and treating minor injuries as the crew worked without rest. You need sleep, Commander, she told Olandis quietly. Even you have limits. Olandis rubbed her eyes, acknowledging the truth in Naomi's words. Soon, after we review the new intelligence, the Defiance had just completed its most audacious mission, yet infiltrating an Axilian communication hub and extracting classified transmissions between the High Command. The information they'd gathered was potentially game-changing. "They're committing the Imperial Guard," Lieutenant Maddox reported, his expression grave. 100 warships dedicated solely to hunting us down. "Can we fight that many?" Navigator Voss asked quietly. "We can't fight any of them directly," Olandis replied. "But that's not the point. They're pulling their elite forces from border patrols, from subjugated worlds, from strategic installations. They're creating vacuums of power throughout their empire." Engineer Zadora looked up from a console. "Commander, I've been analyzing the Axilian fleet deployments. If the Imperial Guard is being mobilized, the Vex Coalition territories will be virtually unguarded." "The Vex Coalition?" Communications Officer Peller questioned. "The database identified them as former rivals of the Axilians, forced into vassalage centuries ago." "Exactly," Olandis nodded. "And according to these transmissions, they're already showing signs of rebellion." A plan began forming in her mind, more ambitious and dangerous than anything they'd attempted so far. "What if," she said slowly, "instead of running from the Imperial Guard, we help the Coalition break free?" The bridge fell silent as her crew considered the implications. "That would mean open war," Weapons Officer Caden pointed out. "Not just us against pursuit vessels, but potentially igniting a conflict that could engulf the entire sector." "The war is already happening," Olandis countered. "We're just changing its shape. The Axilians are bullies who've relied on fear and overwhelming force. We've shown the galaxy they're vulnerable. Now we need to show that they can be defeated." Science Officer Varan pulled up star charts showing Vex Coalition territory. "If we transmitted our tactical data on Axilian vulnerabilities to Coalition leadership, we could turn 100 pursued humans into billions of active resistors," Olandis finished. "Engineer Zadora, how's our jump drive?" "Functioning at 60%, they replied. "We can make the jump to Coalition space, but we'd be pushing our limits." Olandis straightened her uniform, decision made. "Set course for the Coalition capital. It's time to make some allies." As the Defiance prepared for its most dangerous mission yet, the crew understood the stakes had never been higher. They were no longer just fighting for survival or even for Earth's safety. They were about to reshape the political landscape of an entire galactic sector. And somewhere in the vastness of space, 100 Imperial Guard vessels began their hunt, unaware they were chasing shadows while their empire's foundations crumbled. Beneath them, Prime Minister Colvan of the Vex Coalition did not achieve his position through timidity. Even so, when his security forces reported an unidentified vessel had somehow bypassed all planetary defenses and landed directly in the governmental complex's restricted courtyard, his first instinct was caution rather than aggression. "Description?" he demanded of his chief security officer. "Small vessel, unknown configuration," came the reply. "Approximately 13 life forms detected aboard. They've made no aggressive moves, but they're refusing communication except with—" The officer hesitated. "Except with you directly, Prime Minister. They claim to be humans from Earth." Colvan's 4 eyes widened simultaneously. "The humans? Here?" Throughout Coalition space, rumors had spread of the lone Earth vessel that had humiliated the Axilian Empire repeatedly. Most believed them exaggerated. Propaganda. A convenient myth to explain the Empire's recent military failures. "Verify their identity," Colvan ordered. "Then bring their leader to me, under guard, but with full diplomatic courtesy." 30 minutes later, Commander Varric Olandis stood before the Coalition Leadership Council, her silver-flecked eyes taking in the assembly of alien dignitaries with calm assessment. "Prime Minister Colvan," she began without preamble, "my name is Commander Olandis of Earth Vessel Defiance. I come with an opportunity the Coalition cannot afford to ignore." Colvan studied the human with fascination. She appeared physically unimpressive by Coalition standards. No protective exoskeleton, no natural weapons, smaller than most sentient species. Yet something in her bearing commanded respect. "Commander Olandis," he replied formally. "Your reputation precedes you." Though I must admit many believed your exploits against the Axilians were merely rumors. The Empire certainly wishes they were, Olandis replied with a slight smile. But I assure you everything you've heard is real, and likely understated. She activated a holographic projector, displaying detailed schematics of Axilian vessels, defensive systems, and communication networks, along with tactical analyses of their vulnerabilities. For months, my crew has been gathering intelligence on Imperial military capabilities, she explained, as Coalition military advisors leaned forward with undisguised interest. We've identified critical weaknesses in their defense systems, command, structures, and strategic deployments, weaknesses the Coalition could exploit, if you act now. Now? Questioned Defense Minister Pravik. Why the urgency? Because the Axilians have committed their Imperial Guard to hunting us, Olandis explained. 100 elite warships pulled from their normal duties, including border patrol along Coalition space. They've never been more vulnerable, and they've never been more afraid. Strategic Minister Lovar, a veteran of previous conflicts with the Empire, regarded Olandis skeptically. With respect, Commander, 13 humans in one vessel have certainly caused impressive damage, but the Coalition has 300 worlds. Openly challenging the Empire would risk billions of lives. And how many lives are lost each day under Axilian subjugation? Olandis countered. How many species have been enslaved? How many worlds stripped of resources? The Coalition has been waiting generations for this opportunity. Prime Minister Kolvan raised a hand, silencing further discussion. Commander Olandis, while we appreciate your information, this decision cannot be made hastily. The Coalition Council requires time to deliberate. Olandis nodded understanding, but her expression remained resolute. Time is the one luxury we don't have. The Imperial Guard is hunting us with unprecedented resources. When they fail to find us, and they will fail, they'll eventually realize we've come here. And when that happens, they'll come with everything they have. You've put us in danger simply by coming here, accused one counselor. No, Olandis replied firmly. You've been in danger since the moment the Axilians forced you into vassalage. I'm offering you the means to free yourselves. Kolvan studied the human commander thoughtfully. What does Earth gain from this alliance? Your homeworld is distant, unknown to us. Why involve yourselves in this conflict? For the first time, Olandis's composure faltered slightly. Earth doesn't even know we're alive. Our mission was to test an experimental drive system. We never intended to make first contact, let alone spark an interstellar conflict. But the Axilians gave us no choice when they tried to enslave us. And now, she gestured to the tactical displays. Now we've seen too much of their empire, their methods, their cruelty, to simply run home and hope they never find Earth. She stepped closer to Kolvan, her voice lowering with intensity. Prime Minister, my crew has fought impossible odds for months, not just for our survival, but because it was right. The Axilian Empire represents everything humanity has spent millennia fighting against: tyranny, enslavement, genocide. We may be just 13, but we've proven what determination can accomplish against overwhelming odds. Imagine what billions of Coalition citizens could do with the same resolve. A long silence followed her words. Finally, Kolvan rose from his seat. The Council will deliberate. In the meantime, Commander, you and your crew will be our honored guests. On the Axilian throne world, Grand Executor Thrax reviewed the latest. Reports with mounting fury. 2 weeks had passed with no sign of the Earth vessel despite the Imperial Guard's exhaustive search. How? She demanded of Fleet Admiral Laxara. How does one primitive vessel evade 100 of our finest warships? Before Laxara could respond, alarm klaxons blared throughout the Imperial Palace. A communications officer burst into the chamber, protocol forgotten in his panic. Grand Executor, multiple Coalition fleets have crossed our borders. They're attacking. Imperial outposts across 3 sectors simultaneously. Coalition? Thrax rose to her full height, mandibles clicking in disbelief. The Vex would never dare. They're using unknown attack patterns, the officer continued breathlessly. Our standard defenses are failing, and they're broadcasting this message on all frequencies. The main view screen activated, showing Coalition Prime Minister Colvan with Commander Varric Olandis standing at his side. Attention, Axilian Empire, Colvan declared. For centuries, you have subjugated our people, exploited our worlds, and crushed all resistance with overwhelming force. Today, that ends. The Coalition hereby declares its independence and freedom from imperial rule. Olandis stepped forward. This is Commander Olandis of Earth. To all enslaved worlds and peoples throughout Axilian space, your opportunity is now. The Empire's forces are scattered, their vulnerabilities exposed. Rise up, take back your worlds. The Coalition stands with you, and Earth stands with you. The transmission ended, leaving the Axilian leadership in stunned silence. Recall the Imperial Guard immediately, Thrakes ordered, her voice deadly quiet. All available forces to Coalition borders. Grand Executor, Admiral Loxara ventured cautiously. If we pull our forces from subjugated worlds to fight the Coalition— I know the risks, Thrakes snapped. But we have no choice. The Coalition must be crushed swiftly and decisively, or others will follow their example. As orders went out across Imperial space, Science Director Vrex approached Thrakes privately. It's too late, he said simply. Surely you see that. Thrakes turned on him, fury evident in her posture. Nothing is too late for the Empire. We have survived challenges for 10,000 years. But we've never faced an adversary like these humans, Vrex countered. They've done what no other species managed. They've united our enemies against us, not through superior technology or numbers, but through sheer tactical brilliance and determination. One vessel, Thrakes hissed. 13 primitives. 13 primitives who understood what we'd forgotten, Vrex replied. That empires built on fear collapse when that fear is overcome. Reports continued flooding in. Coalition forces pushing deep into Imperial territory, subjugated worlds revolting en masse, Imperial vessels being ambushed with tactics identical to those employed by the Defiance. The Grand Executor watched as her empire, the mightiest the galaxy had ever known, began to burn. 6 months later, Commander Varric Olandis stood on the observation deck of the Coalition flagship Liberation, watching as representatives from 47 formerly subjugated species signed the Mutual Defense Accord. Beside her stood her crew, the 13 humans, who had changed the course of galactic history. Hard to believe it all started with a drive malfunction, Lieutenant Maddox remarked quietly. Or perhaps that's exactly how it was meant to happen, Science Officer Varan suggested. Some might call it destiny. Olandis smiled slightly. I call it human ingenuity and determination, and a fair bit of luck. Prime Minister Colvan approached, bowing respectfully to the humans. The Coalition owes you a debt we can never repay, Commander. Half our territory reconquered, billions freed from Imperial oppression, and the Axilians forced to sign the non-expansion treaty. The job's not finished, Olandis replied. The Empire still stands, even if diminished. But it will never dominate the galaxy again, Colvan assured her. Their myth of invincibility is shattered forever. He hesitated, then added, Our scientists have completed their analysis of your jump drive. With modifications, we believe we can safely return you to Earth coordinates. A ripple of excitement passed through the human crew. After nearly a year, in deep space, the prospect of home seemed almost surreal. And the Coalition? Olandis asked. Will you maintain the alliance without us? Thanks to you, we've learned to stand together, Colvan affirmed. And should the Axilians ever threaten, again, we'll remember what 13 humans taught us about facing impossible odds. Later, as the Defiance prepared for its long-awaited jump toward Earth, Olandis addressed her crew one final time. When we left Earth, we were explorers, scientists, test pilots. No one expected us to make history. No one expected us to change the galaxy. But that's what humans do. We exceed expectations. She looked at each of them. No longer the fresh-faced crew that had departed Earth, but battle-hardened veterans who had toppled an empire. When we return, Earth will learn that the universe is vast, complex, and sometimes hostile. But they'll also learn that 13 humans in an experimental vessel stood against an empire, and the empire blinked first. As the Defiance vanished into the jump point, stories of the Earth vessel that shattered an empire continued spreading across the stars. In the centuries that followed, other powers would rise and fall, but one lesson remained constant throughout: the galaxy. Never underestimate humans, especially when they're backed into a corner. For it was not superior technology or overwhelming numbers that had brought the Axilian Empire to its knees. It was the quintessentially human traits of adaptability, ingenuity, and indomitable will. The legend of the Defiance would echo across the cosmos for millennia to come. 13 humans who proved that the most dangerous weapon in the universe was not a dreadnought or a planet killer. It was the human spirit. And somewhere in the vastness of space, amid the burning remnants of their once mighty empire, the Axilians had learned this truth the hard way.